Hey, we have the awesome and the most incredible chef here, Miss Chef Tiffany.
Hi. Hang on a second. Pause.
Her thing, so I'll let her go ahead and do her thing as well. But for right now, I definitely want to kind of give some space to talk to you guys about what we're going to be cooking today. So we're going to actually be cooking some French toast with brioche. Tiffany's going to give you more of like the specifics on that as well. But if you all want to and you have some like, ingredients, we went ahead and sent the ingredient list earlier on. If you did not get that, because you probably signed up a little later on, which is fine, no biggie. But if you want to cook with us, you totally can. If you're just watching for, just to get more insight on how you might want to finesse your family breakfast on Christmas morning or for the New Year's, that's cool too. Feel free to do all the banter and all the chat in the chat for this session. So if you go to the upper right hand corner, click session, click chat, and let us know that you all are here and you all are tuning in as well. So, Miss Tiffany, I am going to hand it on over to you. Tell the people who you are and introduce us to you.
Okay, so hi. I'm trying to look at that camera and not that camera. Hi, my name is Tiffany Stewart, chef adjacent. I'm technically a senior UX designer on a design system team at a company, and cooking is sort of my hobby. I enjoy it very much, and I cook for my family. I'm known as the cook amongst my friends, so I can imagine that this is how this sort of came about. Um, but yeah, today we're going to be making like a super simple-ish French toast that is anybody can use. Anyone can make generally. I might spice mine up a little bit by adding a little bit of bits and bobs here and there as we go through. And by bits and bobs, I mean some Grand Marnier. We're gonna influencer it, right? Like some Grand Marnier a little bit. Add that to what we're making. But yeah, it's a very very simple recipe. All you're gonna need, if you can get it, is some bread or some brioche. I have mine sort of pre-sliced into these squares because it's just me here, so I'm only making a relatively small batch. So as you can see, it's sort of slightly stale. We have this here. You're going to need a largish pan, enough to fry, large enough in size to fry however many pieces of French toast that you're making. You're also going to need some cinnamon. I am currently using vanilla bean paste, but if you have regular vanilla, that's also fine. As much as you like regular vanilla or vanilla bean paste, it will work. I just like the vanilla bean paste because it's got like the little seeds a little bit in it, so you can still see the texture. And then we've got some nutmeg, some sugar, and some eggs, which got right there, and some milk and some heavy whipping cream. So let's get started, shall we? Oh my goodness. Ooh, this is exciting. I haven't cooked in a minute because life has been happening. I hope you guys are doing well. Technically, I cannot see the chat from this far away because y'all are way down there. So if there's any questions, hopefully someone can ask later on as we go. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to prepare the custard. So I like to break out my big, what is this, measuring cup. It's the biggest one I have, holds 4 cups in it. Break this out because we're trying to do not as many dishes as we need to. It's not that serious. So here we are. We're going to do, and I need my garbage bowl. That's okay. I'll just put it in the sink. So we're going to break our 2 whole eggs into the mixing. Woo-hoo-hoo. Eggshell fished out safely. Haha. And then this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We're only going to use 2 egg yolks. So you're going to have to separate the eggs from the egg whites. This is very gross, I know, but it's like the quickest and easiest way to do this. So you're basically just going to crack the egg into your hands. My hands are pre-washed, by the way. Thank you very much, out here in these streets. And then you're going to plop that into your custard mixture. Now there's many ways to do this. Like there's an option where you can like break it into half a shell and toss it between the other two halves. But this I find is the easiest way. Look away if this grosses you out. Separating the two. Whoop-de-woo. Egg in there, and then there you go. In a second, let me wash my hands. Woo. Sorry. Grabbing some paper towel because I like to keep my hands clean. Okay, so into this mixture then, this is where we're going to put all of the good bits. So I am going to sort of eyeball it. You do whatever works for you. I'm going to use about a cup of whole milk, somewhere in that vicinity. And then we're going to do some heavy whipping cream. And so basically what we're making is a custard. Probably putting about like half a cup in here. Something like that. Throwing that in there. And then we want to put in the cinnamon. I'm going to use the sprinkle side so that I don't overdose the cinnamon. A little bit of cinnamon. Ooh. And then this is where you put in the vanilla. Oh my gosh. And then I, like Chef Holly says, I like to measure vanilla with my heart. So today I'm feeling extra vanilla-y. But again, do whatever feels right to you. If the ancestors are saying put more, put less, then do what they said. And then we've got some nutmeg, and mine I like to freshly grate. So I have one of these, but a regular grater will do, or a planer will do. And then you just want to grate some in there. Not a lot because you don't want it to be too overpowering, but you know, enough to make your house smell yummy. Because I can smell it. It smells amazing. So put all of that in there, and then you want to put some sugar. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of sugar. 2 heaping tablespoons because I like mine a little sweet. There we go. And then what I want to do, this is if you're feeling fancy. There's really no need to do this if you don't want to. You want to open your Grand Marnier. Just a little bit. And then pour in as much or as little as you would like. I'm just going to use a splash. By the way, the alcohol will cook off, but, you know, again, whatever moves you. Okay, that sounds reasonable. We'll put that back. And then what we want to do is basically mix this all up. So this is essentially going to be the custard, as the table shakes, fine, that we dip the French toast into. And so you see it's starting to get that sort of yummy dark yellow color. I don't know how much you can see, but yeah, I'm not trying to pour it on my computer, but yeah. So that's what you're aiming for. So you want to mix that up and make sure that everybody's really incorporated. All the eggs are sort of broken up. All the egg yolks have broken up as well. And it just sort of smell like eggnog a little bit. I don't know if you guys have ever had eggnog, but that situation, sure. I love a good eggnog. I haven't had eggnog in years. But so yeah, so this is the sound of me mixing. I'm so sorry. So now that it's nice and mixed, and I can tell because if I'm holding it up, I don't see any like streaks of egg yolk. It looks like everybody's incorporated. You're good to go. I'm going to pour this into a shallow baking dish. It really does look like eggnog. It's kind of cool. And then what we want to do is we want to take our stale bread, our stale brioche. It's only been in the oven for about like a day or so. So you want to take that and you want to lay that into the custard mixture to try to soak up as much of the custard as possible. So I will say that depending on how stale your bread is, will determine sort of how long it sits in the custard mixture, because you only want you don't want it to be soggy, but you want it to soak up enough of the custard in order to make it work. So I think these have been sitting in here for about like maybe 10 seconds or so. And now we're just going to flip it. Make sure that the other side gets some of the custard. Okay. And then while that's happening, we can go ahead and preheat our pan. Let's see here. I'm going to set mine to like 3.5. And then if you can, if you're able to, grab some butter. I am using the Lewis Road Creamery butter. It's like this. Not all butters are created equal, but this is a good butter if you're making a super rich dish like this. So let me get out. Just need a small pat. I'm going to need that for later. So let me. Yeah, I'll just use the butter knife. I'm just opening up the butter and just taking a nice pat adjacent, depending. And just putting that pat of butter into my pan. That's going to be the cooking vehicle, the fat for this particular situation. Ooh, yeah. I don't know if y'all can hear the sizzle, but it's happening. It's happening. So let the butter melt. This is a non-stick pan, but if you can get a just a regular steel pan, that would be really good too, because it promotes sort of like even browning. But this will work perfectly fine. So while that butters, and I'm going to leave the butter here because we're probably going to be adding more butter as we continue to cook off the French toast. So I'm just going to poke it and see, make sure it's like soaked up enough. I'm going to flip it over one more time. Oh yeah, I can tell that that's soaked up some. So it's sort of gotten, it was stale before, but when you press it, it's a little bit more spongy now. So now I'm going to take a few of these pieces. And I'm just going to lay it into the pan. I'm shaking off the excess. And that nice sizzle is how you know that your pan has been warmed appropriately. So I'm just going to put this other piece in here. It smells really good, y'all. Okay. And then while those two are cooking, I have enough egg mixture. I might actually make another batch. I'm going to soak these other two pieces. We're just going to let that cook. And in the meanwhile, if you would like, you can go ahead and prep your fruit if that's what you want to do. I am going to, oh, it smells so good. Butter. Who doesn't love butter on everything? It's amazing. Yeah, so I'm just I have some fruit here that I already pre-washed, and it's basically just some strawberries and some raspberries. The raspberries don't necessarily need anything extra, so I just, oh no, I'm sorry, these are not raspberries, these are blackberries. What am I doing? Yeah, so these are blackberries. And I'm just putting them, they're freshly washed, into the separate bowl. And then I'm just gonna slice up a few strawberries so that we can make our French toast look extra pretty. So I'm just slicing, oh wait, not that you needed to necessarily see this, but slicing off the tops and then just slicing it into quarters for the bigger ones, or maybe even thirds, whatever floats your fancy for that day. So very simple cutting board, strawberries, slice and dice. Okay, doing these in halves because they're a little bit bigger. And there's only 2 pieces of French toast for me today because that's all I can manage at this particular moment. So got the fruit ready. Let's check on our toast, shall we? I have all of this spatulas in my kitchen. It's kind of crazy. So I'm gonna, oh yeah. Turn this down a little bit. But just so you can see, this is sort of the color that you're going for, right? So that's sort of nice goldenishy brownie, but with a little bit of, and that char is going to be from the sugar, the sweetness from the sugar. So, oh yeah, we're just gonna let that cook. Gonna add a little bit more butter, and I'm going to flip these because these look like they're ready to fry as well as soon as they soak up some more. And then the other thing that I like to do, I like to make like a little sort of whipped cream situation with mine. So I've got here some heavy cream, and you can add Grand Marnier to this as well, or any alcohol of choice if you'd like. Actually, this is the raw sugar. Okay, do not judge me on my spice cabinet. That's all I have to say about this, but I have to find the powdered sugar, which is hiding somewhere back here. And if I don't have it, regular sugar will work too. There it is. It's all the way in the back. Of course it is. There we go. What happens when you cook things all the time, you have all of the extra spices in the world. It's kind of crazy. So this is some Domino's confectioner sugar, which is just powdered sugar. I think, do they call it anything else? No, it's just the regular powdered sugar. So let me cut this open. And I'm just putting, I don't like mine that sweet. So I'm just going to put in maybe this much. And then let me check. Yep, it looks like they're about ready. So I'm going to, yep. So I'm going to plate up this batch. So we've got one set of French toast, y'all. And I'll probably make the other set off camera. So here we've got our French toast, right? It looks yummy. I'm going to, you might want to put your stuff on mute. Actually, I can mute myself. Hold, please.
I hope y'all are getting into this amazing food that Tiffany is making. She is absolutely hilarious. I have been cracking up back here. But Tiff, you have to let us know, first of all, what kind of machinery are you using over there?
So this is a KitchenAid immersion blender, and so basically what I did was I made like a 2 second whipped cream. So it's basically the heavy cream, the powdered sugar, and then you stick this in there. And instead of like, I mean, you can hand whisk if you want to, but that's not my ministry on this good today. And we would be here for a lot longer than we needed to be. So we're not going to do that.
That is hilarious, Tiff. How did you get, first of all, how did you even get into all of this?
I am one of those people who enjoys cooking for my friends and cooking in general. If you hear that there's a cat in the background, that's my cat. He's roaming into the kitchen now of all times. But that's how I got into it. And I usually, because my friend group tends to be relatively international, we would always have, or I would always throw Friendsgivings because they couldn't go home because of visa issues or what have you. So I would always be the one in the kitchen cooking. And I think it's low key my love language. Like if I cook you food, it's like, you seem like a reasonable human. We'll go with that.
I love that. And honestly, Tiffany is very, very humble. She has such an amazing background as well, even outside of design, engineer. I mean, she's been in so many different spaces, health space, technical space, you know, all the spaces. So for her to also be showing us this amazing dish that she's cooking here, she just put a little dollop of fresh whipped
Fresh
cream, honey, decorating. Okay, dance!
more
Y'all better get into it.
raspberries and things of that nature. And then if you want to be like super fancy, do I have any of my sieves out here? Okay, no, I have my sieves right here. My kitchen door is trash. There's so many things happening in there, but
That looks good, girl. You were giving, it's giving like chef, with all these
yes.
utensils, girl. I mean,
I'm trying. I'm trying. So you want to just this, I can't do the Salt Bay thing. But yeah, it's pretty easy and it's like the easiest recipe too, right? It's literally just like bread and an egg custard. If that makes you feel any better. And so after you're done, here you are.
Tiffany, like, can we get into this? So, girl, like, I know you're also talking about people can be crafty and creative with their maple syrups if they wanted to add a syrup. So, I would love for you to talk to us about how we can even be fancy or like elevate
Fancier. Okay.
the palate, sis.
So one of the things that you can do is you can make a simple syrup. Like if you don't have maple syrup at home, or you just want to make any sort of flavored syrup for like your cocktails or for pouring over any of desserts that you made. I have a salted caramel one that's really good, but we're not breaking that out because I'll just make this too rich for me. But usually if you want to make any sort of simple syrup, what you want to do is you want to have a 1-to-1 ratio of sugar to water. Put that in there, boil it, it'll thicken up. That's when you can add your flavoring. So if you want to add maybe like if you're making a cocktail, you want to make like a rosemary syrup or like like that's when you would add those flavors in there. If you're adding alcohol after it's thickened, as in like an alcohol flavorant for a dessert, like you want to make like a vanilla syrup or whatever, you pull it off and or like the vanilla Whaler's vanilla rum. Hold please. Do I have it here? Uh, yeah, I do. If you can get your hands on some of this, some Whaler's vanilla rum, and after you make the syrup, take it off of the fire, put a little bit of the syrup in there, or I'm sorry, the rum in there, and it makes like a nice vanilla rum syrup. And then you can drizzle that over like a sponge cake. You can drizzle it over like some fruit in a bowl, and it's just delicious. It is lovely. One of my favorite things to do, and a really easy, simple syrup that you can keep in your fridge for whenever you need to do whatever y'all are doing out there with your mocktails and your cocktails for the holiday and whatnot. So yeah. Yeah. I think you're muted. It
Girl,
happens.
I was so I'm over here acting like a grandma, but yes, I said I love that, and I wanted to ask you, like, do you have a favorite drink that you like to pair your French toast with? Like I don't know, like a mocktail or a cocktail as well.
Mocktail or cocktail to pair with my French toast. I'm so regular. First of all, I am on headache medication, so I can't have alcohol anymore. Boo. But you could do like a raspberry spritzer. Like if you have soda water, you can make a raspberry syrup or blackberry syrup. So you take the syrup, mush your fruit up in there, let it cool, put that with some ice and some soda water or club water, and put this, make the simple syrup, make it as sweet as you want, and it turns a really brilliant color. And you can have that with this as well. It'd be super, super yummy.
Wow. I
Super
am
yummy.
here for it.
And it's
Um,
really easy. It's a lot easier that I think in the books or like whenever you see it on TV, they always make it sound like it's like super difficult to make or like, you have to have all these special things. And it's like, no, not really. You just, y'all, it's basically fruit and milk and bread and butter.
I love that so much. So I know again, like you told us a little bit about your professional career, but I would love for you to lean into sharing maybe how did you get into the space? How did you know you wanted to get into design, especially starting off your career in engineering?
Oh, okay. So, it was one of those moments where it was slightly accidental, but then it turned out to be the thing that I'm the most passionate about. So because I don't think when I started out, there was anything like a service designer or an accessibility designer. That really wasn't a thing. And so I started out, oh my gosh, let me date myself. Back in the day, in IT, providing internet service to these large corporations, did all of that, ended up going back to school to become an engineer. And then after that, fell in love with design via a, what was it called? A pottery class, oddly enough. It's weird. It's fine. So went back to school, got that degree, and then was trying to find an intersection of where I could put my love for like the engineering side of things and also like the crafty artsy side of things. And then I discovered what is essentially now known as UI UX design, because back then it was like you were the webmaster, so you were responsible for all of the things. They don't do that anymore. It's a lot. But so becoming a UI UX designer, working at various companies, and then that's when I got into design systems, which is a pot of Kool-Aid in and onto itself, right? So basically, design systems are what I would be creating these components that help other designers build very quickly these well put together designs that then you can use to ship a product that you built, but still making sure that you're staying within a brand and a pattern and all of those things. And then that's where I can put in my push for accessibility, which is a big deal to me, in making sure that we're trying to make the web as inclusive and equitable as possible. I cannot name to you, there's so many things that are inaccessible to so many people. And if I can put that thought and that care into the components that I'm building for other people to use and impress upon them that, hey, everything that you need to make needs to be accessible from the jump, then that is what I'm going to do. Like, even if you look at my kitchen, right? Like your basic everyday kitchen from an accessibility standpoint. If I can't close my hands well, right? Like these no longer work, right? How do I navigate my kitchen? How do I navigate my home? Like if you don't have enough like grip to manage your mouse, can you use your laptop? Can you use any of your devices with either tabbing through, right? Like if you don't have that level of articulation, like how are you going to do that? And I think a lot of designers, it's not their first thought as to like what that experience would be like, right? Because for the most part, a lot of us are sort of young-minded in the sense that like we don't think anything bad is going to happen to us that would warrant that. And so we miss out on that aspect of design when we're designing things. And so my push at my work is to just sort of encourage designers to really think about the accessibility of the solution that they're presenting when they're designing their things. And then my way of helping to facilitate that conversation is to already have that sort of layer of accessibility annotation when it comes to the components that they're using in their designs.
Wow.
That's a long-winded answer.
Oh, that's really good. And it's also really interesting as well. Because I know that most folks that I have encountered when it comes to accessibility, it's something that they get into either because they're self advocating for themselves, right? And products that they wish were better made, or for folks that they want to advocate because of a close friend or a family member.
Right.
So I would love to know like your journey. Like, how did you identify accessibility being what you wanted?
You know what? It's the empathy in me. I am a Pisces. I am an INFJ. I am a creative thinker according to Adobe. So, and I think I'm the advocate in the INFJ as well too. So I'm always thinking about how can I make the lives of other people better. And I think I was fortunate in that where not well whatever you want to call it, where I work now, we actually have access to a group of accessibility specialists that help us, that we consult regularly to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible. But I've learned so much from them, but also thinking about, I have colleagues now. I've never actually had this happen, but I've had colleagues. I now have colleagues who are blind, legally blind, working with me on my designs. And so that has led me to really double down. Like, I think I was good with it. I was, the outsider's perspective of accessibility, right? You're like, oh, I'm advocating for it and it's great. But now it's like, oh no, like if there is that difference of knowing someone who actually has any of the disabilities and being like, okay, no, I really, really need to double down and think about this. So like, we currently use Figma, but inherently, even as a web application, Figma is, let me not, well, they're not inherently accessible in that way. So if I want to share out my design to my accessibility specialist so that she can make annotations, I have to take it out of Figma and put it into something that she can use to navigate through the designs. And so I always think about that, right? Because like people are always doing like presentations in Figma, all the time they're showing this good stuff and they're sharing this out. And I'm just kind of like, but who can use it? Like, is it just for your coworkers that can see? Or even now with giving presentations, right? The assumption usually is that everyone in your audience can see you and they can hear you. And so I'm in my own everyday practice, I'm trying to be mindful of making sure that when I give presentations on the design system or whatever it is that I'm working on, that I'm very careful about, like, if I'm making it in Figma, exporting it to PowerPoint or PDF or some other device, making sure that it has the closed captioning, making sure I'm describing pictures as I see them, especially if it's a picture that's relevant to the thing that I'm talking about. If it's a decorative picture, I don't necessarily have to describe it, but making sure that I'm keeping that in mind when I'm presenting things is also, and it just keeps me in that mindset of making sure that I'm trying to be as equitable as possible in sort of teaching and showing design things and how design should work, right? Because like we're all eventually going to, like, Chanel, you got glasses. Like, what happens if like you say glasses day or you can't find your contacts? Like, how are you?
Let me tell you right now, these right here are a miracle from Jesus because let me not have my glasses on, y'all. There is no navigation, okay?
There's no navigation. No,
Absolutely.
no, that's so fun. Yeah, because like I've been trying to more purposely use my Mac, the Apples, right? Does not even go into like the difference between Apple and Windows, but Apple has an accessibility reader where it will turn on your screen reader. Woo! What a moment! Oh my goodness! My accessibility specialist Fariel, she laughed because like you turn it on and it starts yelling at you like, I'm reading everything on the screen. all at once, and you're so overwhelmed. And this is me as like a sighted person trying to use it, and I'm just like, I'm lost. Someone help me. But it's good to like know the tools, right? Like understand how the technology of a screen reader works, so that now you know that when you go back to dev, you have to make sure that like your HTML is semantic, because that's how screen readers function, and not every screen reader is going to be the same. Or understanding how Dragon works, which is another accessibility tool that people will use in order to navigate the space. They have this one, is it Dragon that does it? But so basically, it will break out your website or whatever your app into 9 squares, and then you have to tab through and select the square, and then it zooms into that one, breaks it out into another 9 squares. So like looking at the thing that you're designing and thinking about how, and now knowing the technologies of how like a Dragon and an e-reader and all those things work, how your design is going to look or function, right? When those softwares are now interacting with it. So that has been a learning and an experience of itself. I have to tell you that data tables are trash. They're designed a lot of times the way that they're designed, it's like, because can you imagine having to like tab through all of that data? And there's like, right, there's no like way to really jump, or if there is a way to jump, you have to be really intentional about like what you name it, how you name it. Side scrolling, not a good thing. So it's like all of these extra bits and bobs that can, I guess, to some people seem hindrances in how you design, but I think it's an opportunity to challenge yourself and be like, this is an additional layer of problem solving for the user that I need to take on and hopefully incorporate into my daily design process when I'm designing things. Like it's not just going to be, me and Chanel. We're not the only ones using this. Everyone is using it. And that's like, we want everyone to use whatever it is that we're doing. We're trying to make the problem, equitable for all in terms of how we solve it. So
I really love that. And it is really important for us to kind of, in our journeys, take a step back and again, build those technologies that are, and we use accessible a lot, but, that are able to flex between different kinds of user, or allows different kinds of user to customize it to their liking. I know, for instance, for me, like with my eyes, like light can be very sensitive to me, right, on my devices. So I'm always using, like on the iPhone or on my Mac or on any kind of screen, I'm using night mode to kind of remove that blue light and have it more like an orangey, yellowish tone. Because that's easier for me. So, and that's an accessibility feature. You guys so accessibility looks very different. It is not monolithic. So I really love that you really spoke to that as well. And to your journey in getting there. I think it's so freaking cool.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said I love that you talked about even your journey getting there to being able to design.
Yeah. Listen, I'm getting old, okay?
Y'all,
Really what happened. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. I used to be a dancer, and I broke the bottom of my foot. And
girl, which bottom? The back bottom, the front bottom, girl, the
bottom, like the bottom of the foot. There are a bunch of muscles down there, and I strained them really, really badly because the type of dancing that I was doing required me to stomp a lot on bare feet.
What kind of dancing were you doing?
It's called the Bharatanatyam. It's a classical Indian dance.
Wow.
Very, very cool, very expressive, a lot of gestures, but you're basically making sounds with your feet. I guess the equivalent Americanish version of it would be something like tap dance, but not tap dance. I don't know how else to explain, but you're basically
bare feet tap dance.
You're making, because like there's also bells tied to your ankles, and I'm trying to be as respectful as possible because it is like a classical Indian dance. I don't know if there's anything in the US that's really comparable, but just like ballet maybe.
Okay.
Like it's it's with your feet, and you're slapping the feet, your feet on the ground to make a slap sound, but also jingle the bells in time to someone who's playing a musical instrument. But needless to say, broke. When I broke my foot, several things happened. I lived on a third floor walk up at the time. Okay. I cannot get my cast into the bathtub because the cast can't be wet. Right.
Yeah. What?
Fortunately for me, I broke my left foot, but had I broken my right foot, as someone who drive, granted I drive automatic, but like you see where the list of things of how you're supposed to navigate your face or the world in general with just something as quote unquote simple as a foot injury.
Honestly,
So
just thinking about that and man, how things are really designed for the, I don't even want to say the able, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really not a diversity in design for a lot of things that we use day to day. So, you really definitely, girl, you've opened up even my perspective. This is awesome.
yeah.
And I see there's some love in the chat too from you. They're like, so are you gonna drop your Instagram or what? Are you dropping your IG or YouTube for future recipes?
I don't have any of those things. I have like my Elemengo design one. That's my Instagram, but I rarely post on there because Instagram is not really an accessible platform. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm like calling everybody out, but like, like alt text on captions, like even when you have to read the things, it's a lot. And I still don't know how to, because I guess there's like a third party program that I could use to do the things, but like, this is where I lean on my friends who are, in that space, like Jessica Audi, she's over at We're the Black Designer. She's in that space. She just did a thing for Google the other day. My coworker Fariel also learned a lot from Virginie. Is Virginie Gilbert? Is that she's wonderful? Dr. Leslie Ann Knoll, she's wonderful. So learned a lot from them and sort of entering in that space. So there's a lot of people that I follow on Twitter. Yeah. So, but yeah, in regards to my Instagram, I don't. I mean, you can follow me if you want to, but I need to get better at it. But I don't know. I'm not of the. I'm debating if I wanted to make it like an educational Instagram where I talk about, my navigation of being in the accessibility space as someone who is not disabled, but is trying to understand how I need to design for that. And asking my colleagues who are in that space and learning from them. But I don't know. I find the navigation of it tricky because I'm like, I don't want to be like the able person telling, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not my ministry. I will let the people who are on the ground with that really get that going. So follow Jessica Audi. Do that. Yeah. That's follow Jessica.
I just think Tiffany is so humble.
Worked with her. She's legit.
Jessica is pretty dope. So I'll go ahead and drop those links as well. You can find, I think it's jess.audi, right? Or on Instagram?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. But anyway, I'll plug it down below.
We'll plug her. She's great.
Absolutely. And as you can see, Tiffany spoke a lot about being in different spaces that allow her to meet different people. One of the awesome spaces as well, where the Black designers, we have Black in Design, the State of Black Design, where professors and professionals come together to talk design and the history of that as well. So if that's something you're interested in, especially, I mean, all kinds, there's so many different kinds of design.
So many opportunities. Yeah. Follow them folks on Twitter because they be knowing, and I mean, like their design Twitter is pretty, it's pretty decent. It's not super toxic. So.
Girl, I have so many words, but that is so hilarious. But yes, absolutely. I guess we had a comment. So after being diagnosed with ADHD, it made me look at the accessibility of my code and content more. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
As well. So +1 to that. And so, like she said, she's not really on the social media platforms, but she will show you other people that you can follow to get that same value as well. So what's next for Chef Tiff? Are you going to develop some kind of YouTube to teach us how to do all the things?
at all. I'm still navigating that space to
Mm-hmm.
me. Listen, oddly enough, I don't necessarily enjoy being on camera per se, but I'll be out here for like Chanel and my friends. Like I will do this for that, or if it's something that I'm really passionate about. But I don't know. The YouTube space is kind of weird, and their algorithm is weird, and I don't know. I yeah.
Girl, you are such a natural. So many people here, they're saying like you were hilarious and they just really enjoyed. So if you
I know
ever,
I explained things well enough so that you could make this on your own. I haven't even eaten yet. My whipped cream done melted, but it's fine. It's still
girl, no, you did so well. And we don't need to take any more of your time so you can go ahead and enjoy. But again, Tiffany, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for just being a part of my village and also sharing your awesome gift and talent with the community. As you all can see, you don't have to just do a thing in as your job and not pursue other passions. As you can see, Tiffany has done all the things professionally, and now she's also doing chefing it up at home. So it's important for you to just make space for the things that you love as well. So next up, we are going to go ahead and head over to the Connect and Chill Hour. I'm going to give a couple of announcements on the main stage in terms of like what's next. Yes, Tim, go ahead and take that strawberry. So again, everyone, go ahead and drop your thumbs up, throw some fires in the channel chat, and let Tiffany know how much you enjoyed this talk. Again, looking forward to seeing you all on the main stage. Now, thanks so much, Tiffany.
Wow. I'm so sorry. It's so good. Okay.
No, you're so good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.